You've been trying really hard to pay off your debt as efficiently as possible, but every time you look at it, there's never any progress made, or worse, it keeps increasing. But what if I told you that the process I'm about to go through in this live stream helped my wife and I pay down $43,000 of debt in just 13 months? And this process can be done with any income, any amount or type of debt, and any level of financial knowledge. All you have to do is find an extra one of these guys lying around every month in your finances. It's there, and I'm going to prove it by the end of this stream. I call it the power of $100, and I'm going to show you just how this little bit of extra money each month applied towards your debt makes a huge difference when paying down your debt. Then I'm going to show you how to find one of these in your finances. We're going to find one of these extra for you, at least in your finances. That's my guarantee, okay? And to do this, you don't need to find a second job. You don't need a side hustle. You don't need to sell those valuable family heirlooms to make the extra money, okay? It's already in there, and we're going to find it. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to smash the like button, and let's just get right into it, because I have a lot to show you, and I got to make this a little, there we go. Standing desk, very helpful. Okay. Let's go motivate you to kind of, hey, maybe I do have the ability to find the extra $100 in my finances. So this is the debt payment calculator. Now, I just have some random information here, but what you kind of do is this is the input section of the calculator. So you put the creditor or the type of loan, whatever you want to do. You can name these however you want. So I have credit card one, credit card two, car loan, student loan. Okay. Then we have the current balance of the loan. So as you can see here, each one of these line items has a balance, and that totals $50,000. This column represents the interest rate for each of them, okay? And then the minimum payment that's associated with each of them. Now, that totals to $715. And that's going to be very important as we go through this. So let me know if you're watching this now, or if you're watching on the replay later. How much is your debt minimum payment? I would love to know. Just kind of helps me understand like the kind of examples that I can go through that can help, a larger part of the people that are going to watch this, right? So that's the sort of input section here, okay? Now this section is important. This tells us, okay, how much are we paying towards our debt? So for this example right now, let's just say we're making exactly the minimum payments, $715. Is this something that you guys are doing now? Are you making exactly minimum payments? Are you making more than the minimum payments? Are you making less than the minimum payments every month, or it's kind of inconsistent? Like sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. Let me know that too, because again, that would really help to kind of know what's going on for you guys and how I can help you in these examples. This section here, initial snowball, this just means if there's any extra money on top of what we're paying versus our minimum. So it's basically taking how much we're paying minus the minimum. Now this section here is the fun part. This is where we get sort of the data and all the stuff in terms of like how we're doing and how long it's going to take to pay off the debt and how much interest we're going to be paying on the debt based on the information that we've entered so far. So these are still the same, right? We still have our creditor types, we still have our balances, and now we have some new information. We have the interest that we would be paying through the life of the debt that we have here. So as you can see, yes, we have $50,000 in debt, but based on our information and only making the minimum payments, we have to tack on an extra $96,000 of interest, guys. So we're talking almost $150,000. We're talking 3x what our actual debt is just because of the interest. Okay. And then our section here is how many months it's going to take to pay off the debt and the month and year associated with it. That way you can get an idea of like, okay, how long is this thing going to take? Now, I am streaming this in March of 2025. And based on the information that we have here, the minimum payments, we're not going to be paying this off until May 2042. So that's 17 years. Not good, right? I know $50,000 is a ton of debt. And you're probably thinking like, if you have this amount or somewhere close to it, that it just feels impossible. You're never going to be able to pay it down. 17 years is way too long. If we're actually serious about paying down our debt, we have to be way more intentional and serious. And this date just kind of isn't acceptable, in my opinion. And what I like to say is that a minimum payment isn't really a debt payment strategy. It's literally like it's called minimum payment. Like it's literally the least you can do without being penalized. And if you don't know, if you don't make your minimum payments every month, likely your lender has an agreement in place that if you don't make the minimums, you're going to have to be charged extra fees or whatever. Or if it happens long enough, they're going to, increase your interest rate, whatever the deal is. So you have to make sure you check all those if you're not making your interest payments. But here's why the power of $100 is so powerful. Let's say that we were just to get crazy and we were to add an extra $100 here. So I'm about to hit enter in 1 second. What I want you to look at is the total interest paid is going to go way down. The debt free date, it's going to get way closer to now. Okay. So let's hit enter. And that's insane, right? So we're basically cutting off $50,000 in interest paid. So we went from 96 to 43. So $53,000 of interest gone just by adding an extra $100 a month towards our debt. And the debt free date went from May 2042 to October 2034. So we'll call that 8 years. Would you like to have 8 years of your life back? 8 years of being in stress? Like, just cut that out of your life. 8 years. It's almost a decade. Okay. That's insane. And this is the power of it. This is the power of just a little extra money. And even if you're like, and I'm gonna break this belief later on, but if you don't think that you could even find $100, what if you just did 50? It's still like very significant, very significant. So just a little extra helps so much. And now this is obviously for this example, but I would say generally, if you have, tens of thousands of dollars in debt, going through this exercise can be very helpful. And I'm going to tell you how you can get access to these files, the debt payment calculator, and then the next file that we're going to talk about in a moment. But does this make sense for you? If anyone's watching this live, let me know if this is making sense. If you're watching later, does this make sense? Like, it's so impactful, just a little extra money, right? And you can do this all the way up. Let's say like you want to get super crazy, like, okay, I'm gonna add $1,000. Boom. It's even more significant, right? You're just chopping up so much money. Hey, Angie, how are you? And we can keep going up and up and up and up, right? You could get crazy, like, oh, $1,200, right? And it's going to keep going down. The debt-free date you're going to be pulling it much closer to reality, to current. I like to say that every dollar you put towards a financial goal, you're pulling your future like one step closer to you right now. And it might not feel like it. Little small amounts, like $100 extra a month, might not feel significant, but they are. So let's go back to the base here. Let's go back to the minimum payments that we were making. And I wanted to show you quickly before we get on to the next thing, that it works the other way. So if you're not making minimum payments, and let's say you're making $100 less than the minimum payments for some reason, look what it did here. So I didn't give you a chance to look. So at minimum payments, our interest was $96,000 and our debt-free date was May 2042. But if we are paying $100 less than the minimum, here's what happens. It added about $25,000 of interest, and we added about 4 years of being in debt just by not making the minimum payment. So the power of $100 works in both directions. So we want to be making sure that we are giving it in the direction, that we want it to be positively impacting us, not negatively, because debt is going to be your biggest wealth killer. And it was for me and my wife when we were just had tens of thousands of dollars in debt for a long time. We were making the same exact mistakes that I'm trying to go through now to help you guys. We were just making minimum payments. Maybe if one of us got a bonus at work, we'd throw a little extra at it, but it was not our main focus. It never was until it was, right? Until we drew a line in the sand. We're like, what are we doing? And we just pushed everything. We pushed all of our focus, all of our attention to it. And that's how we were able to, pay it off so intensely. Okay. So that was kind of the carrot that I wanted to dangle in front of you guys. How just an extra $100 is that impactful. So how we're going to find it? Yes, let's get into that process. And there we go. It went over this. is the budget template. Now, before we get into the budget, and yeah, I'm sure if you're watching this now or you're watching this later, you're hearing the word budget and you're maybe rolling your eyes thinking, oh, like he's going to talk about how I have to restrict my life and it's everything's going to be restriction, restriction, cut, cut, cut. But a budget doesn't tell us what we can't do with our money. It shows us what we actually can do. So right, it's just kind of helping us guide our money decisions. But before we get into the actual budget, there's a process that we have to go through first. Perfect. You guys can see that. And it's called the 3-month look back. Basically, what we want to do here is so again, I'm recording this stream in March. So we want to look back 3 months. So in this case, it'd be December, January, February. And however you spend money, whether that's with your debit card, with your credit card, cash, that will be a little harder to go back and track. But however you spend money, we need to open it up. We need to take a look at it. We need to see the historical spending habits. And by it's not historical, it's 3 months, 3 months ago, right? And specifically, what I want you to do is the variable expense categories, meaning things like groceries, gas, utilities, things that we spend money on every single month. But the expense fluctuates, right? Obviously, your groceries and your gas aren't going to be the exact dollar amount every single month. You can do this for all of your expenses if you want to do fixed as well. But the reason why we're doing variable again is the fixed expenses like your rent or mortgage or like a subscription thing that you have, the cost of that every single month, right? So we know that unless we just completely get rid of it, that's likely going to be the cost of those fixed items. So the variable expenses is where we kind of have some leverage to play around with. So after we go through the 3 months, we're going to categorize them into all the categories. Again, I have them listed here, but the way this file is set up, you can enter however many as you want in here and call them whatever you want because everyone's life is going to be a little different and we all buy different stuff, right? So after we add the 3 months, we get an average, which is great because this helps us put a number to how much money approximately we're spending in each of these categories. And I want you to really look at it and kind of base it off of first your instincts of, does this seem correct? Like, does this seem about what I thought I spent on this? Is this way higher than I thought I spent? Is this way lower than I thought I spent? And it just kind of helps you gauge, like, okay, now that I have the data in front of me, here's what's actually happening. Because a lot of times there's the people that I work with, there's one or two categories that kind of stick out to them that they are spending way more in than they thought. And spoiler alert, the biggest culprit is dining out, food delivery, restaurants, all this other stuff. Just an FYI, just if you've never done this before, I would probably look in that category first. But so the whole reason we have the average. Okay, now in our mind, we're like, okay, yep, some of these were right. Some of these were maybe a little more than I was expecting. And now what I want you to do, and I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second, because this part is possibly the most important part of all this, is that I want you to create a list. And at the top of that list, I want you to write North Star goals. Okay. And these are the things that I want you to feel the most aligned with in your life. So these could be life goals, life stuff, financial goals, anything that you want to have in life or you have currently, and it's kind of a non-negotiable, like I'm not willing to give this up. And this is really important. So I want you to write down a list of, I don't know, 2, 5, 10 things, however many things are that important to you. And once you have that list, that's going to be the list of, okay, these are the things that I am telling myself are the most important things in my life and they're non-negotiable. And if I can't spend money on them, if I can't spend time on them, effort, all these things, like we need to funnel all of our decisions now through these North Star goals. And it's like, okay, these, 5 or 6 things, I need to be making sure that the money that I'm applying in my life works for those, the time, the effort, the sacrifices, they all work for that. And then everything else that I didn't put on the list and that I didn't say were the most important things, um, those are the areas that we can kind of trim around the edges. And with this process, what it does is you don't feel like you're cutting the things out of your life that you care about the most, because the people that I've spoken to that have kind of started budgeting and they kind of are inconsistent with it because it feels like to them that they're cutting the things out in their life that matter to them the most. And that's why this North Star goal exercise is great, because now you don't have to do that. And you can just cut around the things that are less important or that do not align with a financial goal or a life goal. So if I go back to the file, the example I gave before, like dining out, food delivery, etc., like in almost all circumstances, this is not going to be on anyone's North Star goal list, right? Unless you're like a serious foodie or you're, I don't know, whatever. But like in most cases, like it's just not going to be on people's list. So that's why like this is a big category where like, oh wow, I'm just spending way too much in. Okay. And after you kind of have the list, now we can kind of reassess how much we've been spending on all the categories that we see here. And then we do another sort of analysis like, okay, based on everything that I'm looking at so far, what's kind of the next step here? Like, how much should I be budgeting for each of these categories going forward in the future? That's why this process is so helpful, especially if you've never budgeted, because your first month or two that you'd be doing this, you kind of just be guessing, especially for like groceries, gas, like, oh, I think I should budget this amount. This helps us put some raw data behind it. So for each of the categories, I want you to, in this column here, enter a new budget amount. And again, we're aligning it to the North Star goal. So this can work in two different ways. So I've been mentioning dining out, right? So let's say this person does this exercise. These are all random numbers, by the way. And they spent on average $257 a month. And they're like, you know what? Um, that's a lot. And yeah, I'm just going to try to reduce it the first month just by a little bit. So I'm going to say the new budget amount is $150. So this column here is going to show us the monthly savings or the potential monthly savings, right? Because we haven't actually saved anything yet. This is sort of like fake money at the moment, but it's potential to be saving money in the future in our budget. So anything that's green here, it means, oh, okay, this is an amount, our new budget amount is less than our average. So that's great. And then the why, which is this column here, like why is this important to you? What action will you take to make this happen? So you could say something like, yeah, I was, it was reckless spending, I was lazy, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I want to do this is because, let's say paying off my debt more efficiently is one of my North Star goals. It's something that I want to do, and it's very important to me. So, because having a why behind it will make it more tangible for you. Because the first couple months, like when you're getting in the grind of doing this, it might feel kind of exciting in the beginning, like, oh, cool, I'm doing the thing, I'm getting used to everything, and sorry. um, and then you kind of fall off because you don't really have like a why. There's nothing in the future for you to kind of look forward to. There's nothing to kind of keep you going. But if you have these reasons for each of the line items, it's helpful. Now, um, a lot of times, again, I'm talking about people that I've worked with specifically. Dining out and groceries are often tied together because they're like, well, you know what? I need to reduce my dining out like a lot. But that probably means that I need to spend more in groceries. So you could look here like, okay, this person spent on average $757. And like, yeah, you know what? Let's just try bumping it up to 825, just as this example here. And it's red because we're spending more than our average, but the why is because you need to spend more groceries due to less dining out, right? There's more meals that you need to cover, right? Just as an example. So I like to show that example because the new budget amount can be an amount that's less than your average. It could be an amount that's higher than your average. Again, we have to kind of realign our spending habits and map them through our North Star goal. So at the end of this entire process, I'm not going to go through every one of these categories to save you guys time, but at the end of this process, this monthly savings totals down here. And right now we have 142 extra dollars a month that we just found by doing this process. And annually that comes out to like $1,700. So This is not a guarantee, of course. We still have to go out and do the thing month after month after month, but it's a good exercise. Like, oh, okay, so I think I can reasonably do this, right? And at the beginning of this stream, I told you that I was going to help you find an extra $100, just like this guy here, right? And on our first try, we got $142, which is great. Now you can go through this exercise, come to the monthly savings, and this amount isn't what you thought it would be. And that's okay. Like sometimes once you see this number, say like let's say you only had like $20 here, you're like, well, that's not very impactful. You could just go through this new budget process again. Be like, okay, what do I need to like how do I need to keep realigning stuff to be able to make this work? And then you just go until you're happy with a number down here, $142. Now, I'm going to jump over to the budget, but before I do, I have to show you my free personal finance community called Dollar Discipline University. I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. Awesome. And basically, yeah, if you've liked everything on this, on the stream or you're watching this afterwards, I'm helping people kind of build up their financial foundation with the eventual goal of becoming debt free, paying off your debt more efficiently, because I think that this is the most important financial thing that anyone needs to be doing. So if you're in debt, I get it. I was in debt too, but it's the least efficient thing that we can do with spending our money. I would much rather put my money towards, my family's future than giving it to some other person who's just going to get rich from my interest payments, right? And so if you're kind of stuck with debt, if you're living in the paycheck to paycheck cycle and you don't know how to get out of it, this community is a great way. It's a great way to do that. Right now, I'm taking free strategy calls with every new member that joins. So I'd love to have you inside of here. There's a classroom here, so it's kind of a DIY classroom. Some people have gotten results in here without even speaking to me. The first time I'm speaking to them, it's like, "Hey, I watched your fourth video, and I have a question, but I've already like done X, Y, and Z." It's like, "Wow, this is cool." Okay, so the stuff in here it's working. And again, if you like the stuff that's happening in the stream, the things happening in Dollar Discipline University are this like multiplied essentially. So there's a bunch of people in here that are just winning and they're doing stuff. So make sure to check that out. Dollar Discipline University. It's at school.com/debt. So we're going to go back to the budget template. So just a quick recap. We figured out what we were doing with we have our new like budgeted monthly savings of $142. What I wanted to do was go into here. I got to make this one a little smaller now. Cool. And so what I wanted to kind of show you was the impact of what we're doing, not only towards our debt, but just in our like personal finance, our budgeting, and the impact that it kind of has. So I'm not going to do a full tutorial here, but basically, the income that we make is the total budget that we have for the month. Like we can't spend more than we make every month. We just can't do it. That's how we stay in paycheck to paycheck cycle. We spend more than we make. So that's the first thing. So your income goes up here and it kind of ties to the total budget. And then all the budgeted items here add up and we take our total budget, so our income minus our budgeted expense columns. And the goal is to try and get this to zero. So we have a fixed expense category, we have variable expense category, financial goals category. Make this slightly bigger. Sorry, guys. And debt, because again, that's what I am helping people focus on, especially in Dollar Discipline University. And it's also tracking the actual. So all the stuff that we pay, it's tracking it against our budgeted amount of the $7,000, just as this example, right? So the goal is to we have to budget every single dollar and we have to try and spend every single dollar. And no, that doesn't mean if we have money left over at the end of the month to put it towards some Amazon thing. It's to put money towards a financial goal, hopefully debt, hopefully, savings, right? Stuff like that. So this variable expense section is tied to the last 3 months, the 3-month look back process. And what I did here was I have the totals of our average. So if you remember here, we have the average total. So I just made sure that those were the same. But now when we change the formula back, it gave us an extra like $200 to play around with and budget with. So it's not just about paying down the debt and being more efficient with that. It's like just having the flexibility to feel a little more like free in your finances every month and have money a little bit left over, right? To be able to do what you want with. Again, ideally, it's paying down debt if you have it, or build up savings if you don't really have that. But that's the power. So you see here up here, we have, remaining budget of $200. So now it's like, oh, okay. So if I apply the extra $100 towards a debt, so let's just say we're putting it towards here, right? And now that the game is like, okay, I budgeted for it, but am I able to pay for it? And right now, based on this, oh, I didn't change this. Hold on. Perfect. I was wondering what was going on there. Yeah. Um, so yeah, now it's like, oh, okay, now I have money to spend, which is great. So we wanted the extra $100. We put it towards a credit card. So it's like, okay, let's make an extra $100 payment towards this credit card. And now we have $100 left over to spend even more. So it's like, okay, we can put more towards the debt. We can put more towards savings, etc. And I just think this is a process that has worked for me, paying off the $43,000 of debt in the 13 months, getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. It's worked for people inside of Dollar Discipline University. And I'm going to stop sharing for again. One of the common questions I get is, what do I do first? Do I pay down debt, or do I put money towards savings? And in most scenarios, if someone came to me and said, hey, should I put money towards this or this? I would usually recommend them focusing on one of those things at a time. Because if you think about, just think about like being distracted. Imagine if you only did one thing in the entire day, for the whole day, for the whole week, for the whole month. You only did one thing. And I'm being like really extreme here, but let's say you don't go to sleep, you don't eat, and you just do one thing all the time. How good do you think you would be at that thing? You'd probably be pretty good. You'd probably be very good, right? That's at an extreme level. Now let's pretend that we're living life, and now we have 8 distractions instead of just one. So we have, we're sleeping, we're eating, we're working, we're I don't know, we're watching whatever, we're doing this, we're doing that, and all of our attention is spanned across 8 different things. Like, how good do you think we could get at all of those things if all of our attention is divided? Probably not as good, right? There wouldn't be one thing that we'd be like elite in. We would be maybe good in a bunch of different things, but that's kind of what applying your money to different little buckets is like. People get excited about, um, investing in the stock market, cryptocurrency, I don't know, sports betting, um, whatever, like whatever people like spend money on or invest money in or whatever. But imagine if you put all that attention towards one thing. That'd be pretty cool. You probably get very good at doing that one thing. You probably be able to pay that off very quickly, like your debt I'm talking about, or save more money a lot faster. But the caveat is that debt and savings, I think we need to kind of do both at the same time. We need to pay down debt at the same time of building savings. So, because if you think about like, if you look back and if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you just can't seem to get out of debt, you have to look back and like, why am I not able to get out of debt? And in my experience personally, and again, talking to other people, it's because people try very hard to get out of debt. They're making the payments, but then they don't have a buffer, like a financial buffer, a savings. That way, when something happens, let's say a $800 thing happens, which it always happens, right? People call it unexpected expenses. Everyone has them. So I think we should just start planning for these unexpected expenses, right? So they have this $800 thing and they don't have the cash to be able to pay for it. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll just put it on the credit card and it'll be fine. But meanwhile, they've made 3 or 4 months of awesome progress paying off their debt, only to go backwards because they had an $800 thing come up. And then they're like, "Oh god, now I have to like pay this off." And it's like you get to that point and then you go a couple months like, "Oh, this is going great." And then like boom, another $500 thing happens. And you're like, "Oh man, I can't catch a break." And you put it on the credit card again and then you're like, "Oh, well, okay, I guess I just add that to my debt and just keep going." And this cycle continues all the time. So if we had a buffer in that first example, let's say you had $1,000 saved up, right? And you're paying off your debt, you're making more than minimum payments. The $800 thing comes up, you just pull it out of your emergency fund, you pay the thing, and your debt is not impacted. Now, we only have $200 in savings, so we have to work on beefing that back up, right? Because saving money, um, I- a big kind of pet peeve of mine is people interuse the word saving and investing. They're very different things, by the way. And I don't talk about investing necessarily on this channel, but investing is a way to like grow our money past the point of inflation. So it's an inflation beating vehicle if, done correctly or done on a long enough time horizon. And there's no guarantees, of course, but saving money is just sort of like, um, it's maybe like matching inflation, right? Or it's, whatever. It's just kind of there and it's not saving money is not going to make us rich, I guess is what I'm saying. And saving money, having money like some in your savings account, it's not very sexy, right? We want to like most people just want to put $100 towards a thing and have it turn into $1,000 by the end of the week. But saving money helps us from going backwards, which a lot of times is just way more important than going forward sometimes. Like the example I gave before, like if you have a 2, 3, 4, 5 month great momentum of some financial goal that you're trying to reach, like paying down debt, and then that $800 thing comes up and it just totally like screws you over because now you go back to the start and you're like, okay, well, I just did 5 months. I'm back to the start. I guess I have to start again. Whereas with a savings, you don't have to necessarily do that. You might not go forward, but you don't go backwards. Like let's say, you're paying the debt, you're making more than minimum payments. That $800 thing comes up, boom, your savings is down to $200. Maybe to beef up that savings account, you have to pull back on the debt a little bit. You have to go from, paying, we'll call it $100 over the minimum payment, and you have to kind of move that $100 towards the savings just for a little bit until you can build it back up again. And then you start going a little more aggressively towards the debt. Because the finish line can be very enticing, but you just have to remember that we want to get there. We don't want it to take forever. Just like in the debt payment calculator example that I showed earlier, we don't want it to take, what was it, 17 years to pay off $50,000. That's insane. And that's not, if you're serious about paying off your debt, that's not good at all. That's not exciting. 17 years is a long time. So that's just some food for thought for you guys on this Thursday evening. Speaking of, so I'm going live every Thursday around 7:15, 7:30. And let me know if you're here or if you're watching this after. Like, what kind of things do you want me to talk about in these live streams? I go live every single week and I try to hit on topics that I think, well, to be honest, I'm making them for people that are inside of Dollar Discipline University, the people that I'm speaking with on a regular basis in the free calls and just, in the community posting back and forth. So I'm making stuff for them. So if you're not one of them, I would join, and that way I can help you a little better. Remember, if you join, I'm doing free strategy calls, and then basically until my calendar fills up, guys, I'm just helping people for free in here. Like I'm taking free calls. I've done hour-long calls. I've done 15-minute little quick question calls. People are posting in here, getting stuff, answering stuff in here. So check this out. This is where all the free resources are too, as well. So the debt payment calculator, the budget template. Um, Definitely check that out. And I will see you guys next Thursday night. Have a good one.